I'm Jeff Gray, Curator of Visitor Experience here at the Museum of Natural History, and we're here in our Forest Gallery. And I'm here with someone we all know, Smokey the Bear. Say hi, Smokey. Smokey and I want to welcome all the students and teachers who are joining us from 3 participating schools in Cape Breton. Tompkins Memorial Elementary, Reserve Mines, grade 6 class. Bullardry School, Bullardry East, grade 5 and 6. Riverside Elementary, Sydney, grade 4, 5, and 6. Welcome everybody. Now, besides Smokey the Bear, we also have 2 fire experts from the government here to answer all your questions. Harold Portier is the fire marshal for Nova Scotia. He knows all the rules, safety tips about fires in houses and buildings. And Kara McCurdy is a fire prevention officer with the Department of Natural Resources. She knows all about fires in the fields and forests. Forests, like the one we have here at the museum and in your own house, are the kinds of places we all want to protect from fires. Fires in woods hurt animals, kill lots of trees, and can burn down buildings too. And firefighters can get hurt trying to put out those fires. House fires can be scary and dangerous for your family. So what are the best ways to stay safe? Do you know? Summer is coming. We all need to know about staying safe from fire, as we all have campfires or walk in the woods or go to the cottage. So here's what we're going to do. We want all of you to send in your fire safety questions right now to our 2 fire experts to give you answers. In fact, students from any school around the province watching us can also send in your questions now. On Twitter, you can follow along using the hashtag NSFireSafety. Questions can be sent to us via Twitter by tweeting at DMA_NS. Questions can also be sent by email, and you can send those questions to tracy.barron@novascotia.ca. All right, we're going to get started, and we're going to check in to see if we have some questions coming through. And again, if you do have those questions, feel free to send them directly to us. All right, so we're waiting for a few questions to come in, but maybe I'll start with a couple of questions. What would you say are some good tips to be thinking about for fires if you are having a campfire?
Well, if you're having a campfire, you want to make sure that there's good clearance around the fire before you start it, and make sure you check with the burn restrictions website to make sure you're allowed to have a campfire, first off. And then once you get a good place to put your campfire, make sure that you have a kind of a bare soil and gravel or something to put it on. If you have a metal ring or a campfire pit, you can put it in that. Or we just recommend people put rocks around it, and make sure you keep your campfire small and that you have somebody there to supervise the campfire with you. And then once you're done your campfire, make sure you put it out. Make sure that you pour lots of water on it, stir it, and pour some more water on it, and then just check it with your hand to make sure it's out completely, that there's no smoke or heat coming from it. That's pretty much it.
Cool. All right, now we do have a question from Noah, and he wants to know, who do you call when you see a grass fire, and who should make that call?
If you see a grass fire and there's nobody supervising it, we ask that you call 911 immediately, and what'll happen is they'll get somebody out there to put out the fire, and usually the volunteer fire department is the first people that arrive on scene, but the message also goes to the Natural Resource Office for firefighters to go to that place.
Cool. Thank you, Noah McLeod. And also, if you had a house fire, to sort of follow up on Noah's question, who would be the best to call?
Again, call the fire department 911, and the fire department would respond.
Excellent. And we have a question coming in. It says, this is a great question for both of you actually. Why did you want to become a firefighter? I'll start with Kara.
My dad was a volunteer fire chief, and I actually joined the volunteer fire department when I was 14 years old, and I really enjoyed it, fighting fire and working with people in the community. So I decided to apply for a job with Natural Resources fighting fire right after the large forest fire that happened over behind the airport. So I applied for the job, and I got in as a firefighter right off the get-go. And I just kind of stuck with it. It's kind of my thing, I guess.
And Harold?
And for me, it was I was fascinated by fire trucks running around the community, doing their operations, putting out fires, and just kind of come a desire for that, so I joined the fire department so that I could help and participate in protecting my community.
Great. We have another question from Riverside, and they want to know, how many times have you saved an animal? The museum would like to know this too.
In a wildfire, we actually don't see a lot of animals. A lot of the animals that are out in the woods are pretty quick to run from a forest fire. But in the volunteer fire department, when I was there, I did actually save a 3-foot iguana one time from a house fire. So.
Personally, I've saved numerous animals in house fires. They're saved on a regular basis if it's safe to do so. Firefighters will go in and help bring out pets and livestock.
We have another question. It says, can you have a fire in your yard to burn things like cardboard and paper?
That's a good question. I was actually looking at that question earlier, and we actually don't give out permission for people to burn cardboard and paper. Most of our restrictions border on burning trees that are cut down in your yard and raked leaves and mowed grass and stuff like that. So we recommend that people do recycling. You know, if you have paper or cardboard, that you use the recycling program in your community and you do it that way. You can use small pieces of paper to start a fire, like your campfire or your brush pile, but yeah, recycling is what we recommend for that.
Zach Ward has a question. He wants to know, who invented firefighting?
Nobody really invented it. Firefighting came about as a group community recognizing a need in a fire situation, and the group got together and they formed what they call the bucket brigade, where they lined up and they passed buckets of water from one person to the next until it got to the fire and they could dump it on the fire.
And I think with wildfire, it kind of started in World War I. There was a lot of forest fires going on, and they just decided they needed to have some kind of system in place to put out the fire and prevent fires. So that's kind of where Natural Resources started doing forest firefighting.
Cool. All right, we have another question. Daniel wants to know, will a firefighter go into a fire to rescue an animal? I think you were talking about that.
Yes, if it's safe for them to go in and rescue an animal, they will do what they can to rescue an animal from a fire.
So, just waiting for a few more questions to come in at this time. Have you both been involved in a lot of both wildfires, like actively fighting fires throughout your career?
I've been in the fire service for almost 40 years now, and I've been actively involved in both the forest fire, grass fires, as well as structure fires.
Yeah, and with me, I've been with Natural Resources for 23 years, and I have gone across Canada fighting fire, including places like Yellowknife in Alberta, Quebec, and so on, helping out other provinces when they need help.
I know that both of you are wearing your uniforms today. Obviously, it's not what you wear when you're fighting a fire. Maybe you could talk a little bit about the gear that you wear, if it can catch fire, and how it protects you.
You want to go first?
Sure. Well, firefighters now wear what we call bunker gear, and it's materials that are designed to retard fire. It will burn if it's left and not protected by means of extinguishing, but it's if it gets heated enough, it will burn. But firefighters, while they're in there fighting, their equipment gets wet, their firefighting gear gets wet, and that protects them and keeps them from burning, as well as the materials that the equipment, the gear is built out of.
I'm actually wearing my fire gear right now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so this is actually our fire gear for out in the woods. It's very hot, by the way, right now. But it's the same thing. It's fire resistive, so it doesn't really it protects firefighters from heat, but if you're right in the flames, you'll definitely get burned.
Okay.
But we try to make sure we don't put firefighters in those situations where they're gonna get burned, right?
We have a question from Riverside. It wants to know, why do things turn black when it burns, and why is smoke black or gray?
Well, everything goes through a scientific process called oxidization. And if it burns very rapidly, it happens very rapidly, it will turn and deteriorate very quickly, and it turns black. It'll change color. It's like a piece of metal. If you leave it out and it gets damp, it'll turn rust. That's a slow process, but the faster the process, the blacker it will get.
All right. It says, I have another question from Riverside. It says, if a fire started in a house and you could not get out, what would he do?
Well, you should have two ways out. One, the natural means of escaping through the doors and hallways. Windows is another option, that you go through a window, but if you're trapped inside, close the doors to the room you're in, put some blankets or whatever around the door, and go by a window, hang something out of the window to indicate to the fire service when they arrive that there is somebody in there, and that's where they're going to go to first.
Is this something you recommend families could practice?
Very definitely. Just you practice in the school's fire drills, practice those drills at home so that you know what to do in the event a fire does occur.
We have a question from Gracie. If someone gets burnt in a fire, what treatment do they use?
Generally, they would receive first aid at the scene by medical people that are there to treat them and look after them. They would then, depending on the severity of the burns, they would be taken care of by paramedics that would be called to the scene, and from there they're transported to the hospital, and again, depending on the severity, they could be transferred into the IWK Burn Center for Children.
Another question from Reese. You kind of touched on this and said, how many fire exits should a house have?
A house should always have two ways out from every area of the house. And again, if you practice those, if one becomes blocked, then you can be assured that you can get out the other way.
All right. We have a question from Riverside Elementary, and they want to know, if there was a fire outside, would a gust of wind make it bigger or put it out?
It certainly depends on the type of fuels and what's around the fire. You know, if it has more fuels to feed the fire, then definitely the wind is gonna flame it higher and make it a lot bigger. But if there's nothing there for it to spread to, it'll eventually just burn itself out.
Kind of related and sort of talked about before, but we have a question from Emma, and she wants to know, what happens if a campfire gets out of control?
That's a good question. If a campfire gets out of control, same as before, you definitely have to call 911 and get firefighters out there on scene. You should get to a safe place. If you're not with an adult, then you should find a place that's nearby that's like gravel or sand, or even like a body of water, pool or something that you can get to where you can be safe from the fire if it happens to spread to the woods a lot. But you should stay there just so you can give information to the first responders, what you saw when you first got on, or when you first saw the campfire get out of control, and then go from there.
A bit of a history question coming in from Ella. She wants to know, where was the biggest grass or forest fire in Nova Scotia, and how long did it take to put out?
The biggest forest fire we've had in Nova Scotia was in 1976. I wasn't even born then. And it was 32,000 acres in size, which is, if you wanted to compare it to something, I guess it's pretty close to the size of Sydney in the municipality of Cape Breton. And it probably took quite a few months to put it out, because once the big fire's out, they have to go back and patrol it and look for hot spots and stuff like that. So it would have took a long time to put it out.
Reese has another question about, is it safe to put a fire out yourself?
You can, but we would recommend that you have the professionals come to do it. If you try to put it out and it gets out of control, or you happen to fan it a little bit, it could create a bigger fire. So we recommend that you get out, get to a safe area, and let the professionals come in and look after it.
Riverside Elementary also would like to know, how many fire drills do they have to have every school year?
They have to have 6 every school year.
All right. I'll have made them check with their teachers to make sure they've had all 6. What happens if someone can't get out of a fire?
Again, if they can't get out of it, a room or an area, secure the room in which they are located in, hang something out of the window, and make sure that they can, if by whatever means, call 911.
Okay. And in a wildfire, people should have like a pre-trip plan. So if you happen to go into the wilderness area, you should always let somebody know where you're going to be, kind of a location, and what you're going to be doing when you're there and how long you're going to be there. And actually that fire in 1976, they had to rescue a group of scout troops that were stuck in the middle of the fire. So I think the helicopter did a lot of that work and got people out that way.
Zachary has a question, and you kind of touched on it with a large fire, but his question is about how long does it take to put out a fire? So maybe you kind of touched on it from an outdoor perspective, but for an average house fire, how long might it take?
Again, it depends on the materials that are actually burning, the size of the fire, the size of the building. Can determine a lot of those things. An average house fire, they can control it, but it can continue to burn. If they can just go in, put it out relatively easy, it can take minutes, and sometimes it can take hours.
Okay. Could either of you possibly touch base on how police, fire, and ambulance services work together when it relates to fires, maybe both in a home fire and in an outdoor situation?
I'll start with that, I guess. In a wildfire, oftentimes we'll call different groups of people in to come help us, like in the Porter's Lake fire over in Halifax County. Because people had to be evacuated, we had to call in a special group of people to come help us with the evacuations and set up comfort centers. We had RCMP helping with traffic control. We even had a Metro Transit bus pick up firefighters to bring them back and forth to different parts of the fire because it was so big. So a lot of times when you have large fires like that, a lot of different groups of people that have parts in the different parts of the fire will come help out.
Well, each of these agencies, police, paramedics, fires, they are all providing emergency services, and they all work together. They all have a special task to do, and each one relies upon the other to perform those tasks. You know, firefighter gets hurt or somebody gets hurt, we look to the paramedics to address them. We look to the police to control traffic so that the firefighters can get in to the areas where they need to be, and we look to them to evacuate areas if needed be. So we all work together to perform the jobs that we do.
Haley wants to know if firefighters have to do drills too.
Yes, they do. Firefighters are continuously doing drills on training on how to put out fires, how to use the equipment that they have. They're constantly going through drills, a lot more often than you do in the school.
Yeah, same with forest fires. We have to do a lot of specialized training to go out across Canada fighting fire and do physical fitness testing too.
What kind of technology are firefighters employing today?
Most common technology that we use in extinguishing fires is water. It's cheap, it's readily available. It doesn't cost much, and it's very effective on most fires. There are other technologies that have to be used. Fires consist of three different components: heat, fuel, and oxygen. And if you remove one of those components, you can extinguish the fire. So there are methods to smother a fire, there are methods to cut off the fuel supply, and there are methods to remove the heat, such as applying the water.
For us, it's more using technology such as helicopters and buckets to put out our fires. And firefighters on the ground, a lot of times will use GPS units so they can tell where they're at and where the hot spots are on the ground. Yeah.
Zachary has an interesting question. He wants to know why schools have to turn out their lights if there's a fire.
That has been the practice in the past. We no longer say you have to or you don't. It's left open. Sometimes you leave the lights on. When the fire service comes in, they can see better when they enter the building. So the big item is that those that are in the school when that alarm rings, get out, get to safety. Whether you close the door, which is good if you can, but most important is to get out.
Riverside Elementary has another question and wants to know about what kind of permits are required for a bonfire.
For a campfire now, all you have to do is go online and check the burn restrictions site, and it's at novascotia.ca/burn safe, or call the 1-800 number, and I can't quote it to you because I don't know it off the top of my head, but either two methods, and find out whether or not you're allowed to have a campfire, and it'll tell you what time of day you're allowed to have a campfire.
Okay. I have a question coming in from a couple of different schools and want to know if they want to be a firefighter when they grow up, what would they need to do?
We would suggest that they get in touch with their local fire department. Some fire departments have a junior firefighters program. Get involved in that. Look at some fire prevention programs and materials and work that's being done out. Even take some of your school projects and that you get involved with and deal with fire prevention, fire safety plans, smoke alarm campaigns in your community, and get involved in that way right from the start. And if there's opportunities to come visit your fire stations, open houses, take the fire departments up on those. Go out and visit with them.
Yeah, definitely the volunteer fire departments is your best bet. A lot of the volunteer fire departments do a lot of forest fire stuff, and if you want experience in forest fires, that's where you'd start, I guess. That's where I started when I first started getting involved. So,
Are dogs still involved with fire departments?
There are still some fire departments that have dogs or other animals as mascots, yes.
Okay. Couple different asking questions about helicopters fighting fires. How much are helicopters used fighting forest fires today?
they're used quite a bit. We usually call a helicopter if a fire gets out of control to the point that a fire crew on the ground can't control the fire. So they'll call the helicopter in. Probably in the run of a summer, anywhere from 20 to 30 times, we'll call the helicopter to come bucket on a fire.
What part of Nova Scotia has the most fires?
In regards to
Forest fires.
In regards to forest fires, right now it sits on mostly Cape Breton County, but we have quite a few in around Cumberland, usually Kings County, and usually Halifax, but Halifax has been fairly quiet this year. So hopefully Smokey's doing his job and keeping things safe.
Is part of that because of the natural area, or is it a human interaction with the land that drives those factors?
It's mostly human interaction because the higher the population in a different county, you're going to have more people out enjoying the outdoors and using campfires and brush burning and stuff like that. So.
Okay.
And on structure fires, it's natural that the numbers would be higher in Halifax area where there's a larger population, Sydney area, which would be the next second largest population. So in those areas would be where the larger number of fires are.
We have another question coming in from Riverside Elementary. We know that all fire alarms sound different. Is there a specific rule requirement for alarms?
The fire alarm sounding in the building has to sound different and be unique from all other sounds in a building, particularly with your schools. It can't be the same as your school's in bell, your recess bell, and what have you. It has to be totally different so that you can distinguish that it is a fire alarm situation that may be occurring, and you can attend to what needs to be done in those situations.
What would you say is the most important message that you would want kids tuning in today to take away about fire safety?
For me, it is to practice your fire safety drills, not only in your home, but more particularly in your home, not only in the schools or in the workplace. So develop a fire safety plan and practice it.
And for me, it's more along the lines of don't play with fire. If you have matches or lighters laying around the home and you don't know what to do with them, just leave them. You don't want your family, friends to get hurt if a fire does escape you in the woods. And not only that, you don't want your friend's house or your parents' house to burn down. It has happened, and we have to be careful of that. So make sure you check the website to see if you're allowed to burn, and make sure you have an adult with you when you do any kind of fire-related activities.
That's great. Would you say that being a firefighter is something that's scary?
I don't find it personally scary. I find it challenging. There are such scary situations that you will get into if you're into a full burning building. But again, you have to develop trust and reliability on the people that you're working with. So it's a team effort that keeps you safe, and you're keeping the rest of the team safe as well.
It can definitely be both scary and rewarding. You're out there doing something that could put your own life at risk, but you're also out there helping your community out and making sure everybody's safe. So it's got both sides to it, I guess. Yeah.
We have a question from Reese. Wants to know, what's your favorite part about being a firefighter?
Well, for me, it's fire prevention. It's going out, talking to the people, telling the people how they can prevent fires from occurring. And we do that through building and fire safety codes that are put in place when a building is constructed to keep it safe, so that individuals can, in most situations, get out on their own in the event of a fire occurring. And it's going out and promoting that into the public.
I'm going to have to say fire prevention because that's my title.
Fair enough.
Yeah, definitely getting out and talking to folks and people about what to do to prevent fires throughout the province. Yeah.
We have some more questions coming in from Riverside. Is water the only thing that's used to put out fires?
No, water's not the only thing. We utilize a variety of chemicals. There's what we call dry chemical fire extinguishers. We use some gases that are inert and will remove the oxygen in their interaction with the fire situation. In some cases, you can turn off the electricity and it may put out the fire.
For us, it's mostly water. Other agencies across Canada, we use foam and fire retardant, but here in Nova Scotia, we use only water for firefighting for forest fires.
Is it true that burning grass will help it grow better?
Not at all.
No?
No. Burning grass really just gives an illusion that it's greener and healthier, but really all it is the black contrasting against the green. And a lot of times when you burn the grass, it exposes the soil and the stuff doesn't grow back as well as it used to. And it also destroys a lot of important wildlife habitat like nesting birds and different mammals and stuff like that live there. And it's very dangerous. It can escape really quickly because it's really dry.
Excellent. So we're coming to the end of our questions, so I want to thank everybody for asking their questions. Is there anything that you wanted to add that we haven't maybe touched on that would be important for kids today to be thinking about with fire?
I would say that we need to consider smoke alarms. We're all required to have smoke alarms or should have smoke alarms in our homes. Change the batteries as you change your clock, the time on your clocks annually. Replace the detectors every 10 years. They're a key component to surviving in a fire, early detection.
Yeah.
I'm going to interject. I want you to answer this question as you're winding through this as well, because Emma has a question, wants to know about how many female firefighters there are in Nova Scotia as well.
In wildfire, there's not a lot.
No?
I'm going to say maybe I can count on one hand the amount of female firefighters. So if you want to become one, we need lots more. Yeah. For me, the message, I guess, would be report any fires that you see. If you're walking around and you see a fire, then there's nobody standing near it. The quicker you can call 911 and get firefighters on scene, the better, because wildfires can spread really quick, not like structure fires.
All right, and actually there was also a helicopter question that's coming in, is how much water can a helicopter carry?
Well, it depends on the size of the bucket, but
Fair point.
most of the buckets that we have are roughly 200 gallons, I guess, so
Okay.
a fair amount. You know, it does a good punch when it comes out of the helicopter.
Perfect.
And we don't scoop up divers in them.
No.
So that's always a common question too.
It's a good riddle. Makes for a good riddle. So is there one last thing that you wanted everyone to take away? Yeah, I know that I have Harold's, but I just wanted to get yours as well.
Basically is just play safe. You know, if you're going to be outside hiking or camping with your parents or your folks this summer, making sure that you keep stuff small when you're having fires, campfires and stuff like that. To make sure you spread the message, you know, talk to other campers and talk to your friends and make sure they know that, you know, it's going to be dry. It's going to be a dry summer and we need people to have small campfires and take care of them, and report them.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, well, thank you very much. That is the end of this webcast about fire safety. I want to thank all the students and teachers at Tompkins Memorial Elementary, Reserve Mines, grade 6 class, Bullardry School, Bullardry East, grade 5 and grade 6, Riverside Elementary, Sydney, grade 4, 5, and 6. Remember, when you go home, tell your parents what you learned about fire safety today and see if they know as much as you do now. Thanks to everyone who followed along online today. If we didn't get to your question, we will send you answers in the next day or so. For more fire safety tips and information, you can check here.